All right, so today let's take a deep dive into something really fascinating. It's creative thinking.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah, and we're going to be using John Adair's book, The Art of Creative Thinking, as our guide.
A classic.
It is a classic, and you had shared some really interesting notes and real-world examples too, which is going to be perfect for this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This has really helped, kind of unlock some of that innovative potential that I think we all have within us.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I think is so interesting about Adair's approach is how he kind of dismantles that whole ideas just appear out of thin air myth.
Yeah, right.
Like it's not magic,
So magic, it is a process.
Exactly, it's a process. And he really emphasizes that it's about combining those existing elements in fresh new ways.
Yeah.
And he uses this great analogy from Henry Ford, who, when asked about, how he built his empire, said, every man starts with all there is.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, that childhood game where we were asked to, draw a new pet.
Uh,
We weren't really creating something totally new. We were just remixing traits.
yeah, we were just remixing familiar animal traits.
Yeah, so the raw materials are already there.
hmm
The question is, how do we see them differently?
Yeah, that's the key.
And how did some of history's, greatest thinkers actually do this?
Well, Adair talks a lot about analogies and specifically drawing inspiration from nature.
Oh, interesting.
So, you think about, inventions like suspension bridges being inspired by spider webs,
Wow.
or the entire frozen food industry, which sprung from somebody observing a frozen salmon.
A frozen salmon.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, Clarence Birdseye noticed that frozen fish tasted fresher, and boom, a whole new way to preserve food was born.
It's amazing.
And even the structure of the human skull, with its arches, has been influencing architects for centuries.
Oh, yeah.
You think about bridges and domes,
That's true.
so it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It really is everywhere.
It makes you wonder what else we're overlooking,
Right.
you know?
All the time.
Adair also mentions making the strange familiar and vice versa, right?
Yes, that's a crucial one.
Yeah.
When we encounter something new, we instinctively try to relate it to something we know.
Right.
Like those New Guinea natives who first saw airplanes and called them big birds.
Yeah.
They were making the strange familiar, but the real creative leap is flipping that and
Yeah.
making the familiar strange.
Okay, so how can we actually do that, though,
Well,
without it just feeling like a mental exercise?
it's all about shifting perspectives.
Yeah.
Like imagine, observing your morning routine as if you've never seen a toothbrush or a coffee pot before.
Okay. Yeah.
What is this strange contraption?
Yeah.
It forces you to break free from those ingrained patterns of thinking.
Okay, so I'm picturing my coffee maker like some alien contraption. That's actually pretty fun.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe that fresh perspective reveals a more efficient way to do things, or even sparks a completely new morning ritual.
Ooh.
You know?
I can already feel my brain waking up.
Could.
So what else helps us kind of get into this creative mindset?
Well, Adair talks about widening our span of relevance,
Okay.
and he points to Jethro Tull, who revolutionized agriculture with the seed drill.
Right, the seed drill.
But get this, he was inspired by the mechanics of an organ.
An organ.
He was an organist,
Wow.
and he saw this connection that nobody else did.
So it's not just about being an expert in one field. It's about kind of drawing from multiple areas.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hmm.
I mean, the more diverse our knowledge is, the more we kind of have to play with.
And that's precisely why seemingly unrelated skills can be surprisingly valuable.
Right.
Did you know that the inventor of the ballpoint pen was a sculptor?
What?
And the creator of Coke was a musician.
No way.
It makes you wonder, what seemingly irrelevant knowledge do we have
That's such a good point.
that could be applied in a fresh way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's the role of serendipity, which, always feels a bit mysterious to me.
Oh, yeah, it's a tricky one.
It does.
Adair frames it beautifully, though.
Okay.
He uses the story of the three princes of Serendip who were constantly stumbling upon these treasures they weren't even seeking
Yeah.
to highlight the importance of being open to those unexpected discoveries.
Yeah, but it's not just luck, is it?
No, it's not just luck.
It feels like it takes more than just being in the right place at the right time.
Exactly. Remember Louis Pasteur's famous quote, "Chance favors the prepared mind."
Yeah.
You think about Charles Goodyear and vulcanized rubber.
Right.
It was an accident, but his years of experimentation made him ready to recognize that breakthrough.
So curiosity and a willingness to experiment are key ingredients for serendipity to work its magic.
I think so.
Speaking of things working in mysterious ways, Adair's concept of the depth mind, always fascinates me.
Oh, that's a powerful idea.
It is.
He describes it as this dimension of our unconscious that's capable of working on problems even when we're not consciously focusing on them.
So is it like our brain is constantly processing in the background even when we're not aware of it?
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Think of it like a submarine, exploring the depths of the ocean, or a computer running these complex calculations in the background.
Wow.
C.S. Forrester even compared it to a jellyfish,
Okay.
absorbing nutrients from its surroundings.
That's an interesting visual.
Yeah.
But how do we actually tap into this hidden resource?
Well, that's the million-dollar question.
It is.
And luckily, Adair offers some guidance.
Okay, good.
It says, firstly, we need to brief our depth mind.
Okay.
Before you sleep, consciously reflect on the problem you're trying to solve.
Okay.
You're planting that seed in your subconscious.
Yeah.
Then, just as important, you have to create the conditions for those aha moments to emerge.
Okay.
Activities that allow your mind to wander freely, like walking, listening to music, or even just taking a break from focused thinking can make all the difference.
So I'm sensing a pattern here, embracing serendipity, being open to unexpected connections. And now it seems like a lot of creative breakthroughs come when we loosen that tight grip on our thoughts and let our minds wander a bit.
You're absolutely right. It's about that delicate balance between focused effort and relaxed receptivity.
Yeah.
But what happens when we're stuck waiting for inspiration to strike?
Right. It's like that classic image of the, artist staring blankly at a canvas, hoping the muse will magically appear.
Exactly. And Adair argues that that approach is more likely to lead to stagnation than a masterpiece.
Oh.
He leans more towards Thomas Edison's view that creative thinking is 99% perspiration.
Okay, so ditch the daydreaming and just start doing the work.
Pretty much.
Okay.
But where does inspiration fit in then?
Right.
It's not about ignoring inspiration. It's about recognizing that it often emerges from consistent effort.
Okay.
He uses the example of James Watt, the inventor of the steam engine.
Yeah.
He struggled for years to improve its efficiency, constantly working, experimenting, hitting roadblocks.
Yeah.
And then one Sunday afternoon, while on a leisurely walk, boom, the solution appeared.
So it was the combination of years of dedicated effort followed by a moment of kind of relaxed reflection that led to the breakthrough. That's fascinating.
It wasn't just the walk itself. His mind was primed with all that knowledge and experience from his previous work.
Yeah, that's a great reminder that sometimes we need to step back to move forward.
I think so.
But this all sounds very free-flowing.
Yeah.
What about the role of analytical thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Don't logic and analysis play a role too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
While we've been emphasizing openness and intuition, Adair also stresses the importance of analytical thinking. It's about finding that sweet spot between imagination and analysis,
Yeah.
utilizing both sides of our brain,
Yeah.
Both the intuitive and the logical to drive that creative process.
Yeah.
You know?
We've talked about, these big picture kind of creative mindsets.
Yeah,
Now, how do we actually make these ideas work for us?
right.
I'm all about practical application here.
Me too. And Adair suggests starting with something surprisingly simple.
Okay.
Keep a notebook.
That old standby.
I know, right?
Seems almost too basic, doesn't it?
It's basic because it works. But Adair has some specific ways to make it a real creative powerhouse.
Okay. How'd I do?
Forget rigid organization. Let intuition be your guide.
Okay.
Jot down anything that grabs your attention.
Okay.
An idea, a conversation snippet, a quote, even just a random observation.
So it's more like a brain dump than a neatly categorized journal.
Exactly.
Okay.
The goal isn't to be good or organized at this point. It's to capture those fleeting thoughts before they vanish.
Right.
We've all had that brilliant idea in the shower moment only to forget it later.
Oh, way too many times.
Right.
So a notebook by the bed in my bag, basically everywhere I go. Got it.
Exactly.
But then what do we just let these notes pile up?
Well, Adair recommends revisiting them, but not too frequently.
Okay.
He suggests times when your mind is relaxed and fresh.
Okay.
A train journey, a vacation, those sorts of moments.
Interesting. It's like giving those ideas time to simmer in our subconscious, almost like a mental slow cooker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you do revisit your notes, look for connections, patterns, themes that might have emerged.
Okay.
You'll be surprised what your brain has been cooking up.
Yeah. I'm seeing how this seemingly simple tool can become a pretty powerful creative catalyst.
It's not just about the ideas themselves. It's about training ourselves to be more observant and receptive to the world around us.
Like turning our brains into idea magnets.
Yes.
Speaking of observation, Adair talks about that quite a bit, right?
He does. He argues that most of us don't actually see what's right in front of us.
Right.
Not literally, of course, but we often see what we expect to see,
Right.
filtering out the unexpected details and nuances.
So we're missing the good stuff because we're stuck in autopilot.
Exactly. And to break free from that, he suggests practicing mindful observation.
Okay.
One technique he loves is sketching.
Hold on. Sketching. Are we talking full-on artistic skills here?
Not at all.
Okay.
It's about using sketching as a tool to sharpen observation.
Okay.
Choose a simple object like a flower or a coffee cup
Yeah.
and really study it, trying to capture its essence on paper. It forces you to slow down, focus on the details, and translate what you see.
So even if I'm no Picasso, the act of sketching helps train my brain to be more attentive. I like
Well,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to stop with sketching. Adair also suggests looking for patterns and connections in everyday life.
Okay.
The way light filters through, leaves, how people interact at a coffee shop, those sorts of things.
Cultivating that sense of curiosity and wonder, like we're explorers in our own backyards.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
All of this has been super helpful for, individual creativity,
Right.
but how do we apply these principles in a group setting?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
While Adair focuses mostly on individual creativity, a lot of his principles can be applied to teams.
Okay.
The key is to make sure everyone feels comfortable and empowered to contribute.
So how do we create that kind of environment where everyone feels safe to share, those out there ideas?
Right. Well, Adair talks about establishing what he calls psychological safety. That means fostering an environment where people feel comfortable sharing their ideas, even if they're not fully formed or conventional.
Right.
Think of it as a judgment-free zone,
Yeah.
where taking risks and making mistakes is encouraged.
It's about creating that sense of trust where everyone feels heard and valued, regardless of their experience level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Having a skilled facilitator can be a huge help here.
Right.
Someone who can guide the conversation, make sure everyone has a chance to contribute, and ensure everyone feels heard.
It's all about bringing out the best in each team member.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And another key ingredient is encouraging a spirit of playful experimentation.
Okay.
This isn't about pressure. It's about encouraging people to try things out, brainstorm freely, and not be afraid to fail.
I like that it takes the pressure off finding the right answer and opens up the space for those what-if explorations.
Exactly. It's about creating that mental playground where breaking the rules and trying new things is not just allowed, it's encouraged.
Yeah, that can be so liberating, especially in a work environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like giving permission to be more playful and intuitive, which I think can be a challenge for a lot of people.
You're right. And that's why providing the right support is crucial.
Yeah.
Giving teams access to new tools, technologies, or even just dedicated time for brainstorming and creative exploration can make a huge difference.
Right.
It's about sending the message that creative thinking is valuable.
It's showing them that their ideas are not just welcomed, they're actively supported.
Exactly. But even with the right environment and support, we need a clear direction.
Okay.
Establishing clear goals and expectations is essential to translate that creative energy into tangible results.
Right. It's like giving the team a map for their creative journey.
Yes.
It helps focus their efforts and provides a way to measure progress without stifling the exploration.
I'm glad you brought that point about not stifling exploration.
Yeah.
It reminds me of something else we haven't talked about yet, the
Yes.
power of storytelling.
Ooh, yes, storytelling. I love a good story.
Yeah.
How did that fit into all of this?
Well, think about it. We've been using stories throughout this entire deep dive.
That's true.
From those New Guinea natives calling airplanes big birds to the frozen salmon that revolutionized food preservation.
It's true. I hadn't thought about it that way, but those stories have definitely stuck with me.
Exactly. And that's the power of storytelling. It allows us to grasp those complex ideas, see their relevance, and share them in a way that's both engaging and memorable.
I love how Adair weaves those anecdotes throughout his book.
Me too.
They make those concepts so much more relatable.
Absolutely.
So how do we get better at incorporating storytelling into our own creative process?
We'll start by simply noticing the stories around you.
Okay.
Pay attention to conversations, articles, experiences. What are the underlying narratives?
Okay.
What are the key takeaways?
It's like we're training our brains to see the world through a storyteller's lens.
Precisely.
I like that.
And once you start noticing these stories, practice telling them yourself.
So it's about honing those storytelling muscles. Do we need to become professional writers or something?
While studying the craft can be helpful, the best way to get better is to just do it.
Good.
Share stories with friends, family, colleagues, find those narratives that resonate, and experiment with different ways of sharing them.
It's about finding the heart of the story and then figuring out the best way to bring it to life for our audience.
Exactly. And as you get more comfortable, you'll find that storytelling becomes this powerful tool for communicating your ideas, inspiring others, and bringing your creative visions to life.
This is so inspiring. It's like we're unlocking a whole new dimension of creativity.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it all comes down to taking action.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Action is key. I mean, we can have all the creative tools and insights in the world, but
it's true.
if we don't actually use them.
Exactly. And that's where Adair's final message really hits home.
Okay.
He challenges us to, push past that fear,
Yeah.
that perfectionism, the
Yeah.
procrastination,
Right.
and actually pursue those creative goals. It's about giving ourselves permission to be bold, to take those creative leaps, even if we're not sure where we'll land.
Exactly. He emphasizes that creative thinking is a muscle that gets stronger with use.
Oh, yeah.
The more we practice these principles, the more confident and capable we become.
It's like taking everything we've learned today and putting it into action, whether it's starting a new project, sharing those unconventional ideas, or just being more mindful in our everyday lives.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great point to wrap up on.
Yeah.
We've explored some really powerful concepts from Adair's book. We've seen how these principles have played out in the lives of some incredible thinkers and creators, and we've even started to imagine how they can be applied on a larger scale to foster a more creative and innovative society.
It's been a truly insightful journey, and I feel like we've just scratched the surface of what's possible.
Me too.
So as we close out this deep dive, what's the one thing we want our listener to take away from this conversation?
It's simple, really. Don't just listen to this deep dive live.
I love it.
Embrace those moments of inspiration. Jot down those crazy ideas. Challenge your assumptions, experiment, play, and most importantly, take action. The world needs your unique contributions, your creative spark to ignite something extraordinary.
That's a beautiful way to put it. A call to action we can all get behind. So to our listener, go out there, unleash your inner creative genius, and make something amazing happen. Until next time, keep diving deep.